Do you turn every corner on your street, quaking in fear that a madman will rip a pipe off the closest building and irrationally charge you with the intent of bludgeoning you to death with no remorse? Well, you are not alone, and we're here to help. Call 1-800-HOBO-BE-GONE. Under the excellent management of Ethan Thomas, the rate of murderous hobos has decreased substantially within our cities. How do we do it, you ask? Do we send a team to arrest the ne'er-do-wells? Or did we open a community center to get them the help they so desperately need? No. Our solution is cheaper and more effective. We send a lone man with whatever melee weapon he can find to head into the streets and beat the ever-living shit.
If you watch my gameplay channel, then it's no secret that when it comes to horror games, I'm a big old baby. Oh, I can't go anywhere. Where am I supposed to go? Oh, god damn! But it's gosh dang Halloween, and I'd be a poor content creator if I didn't put the spooks on at least once this month. And since the anniversary of Resident Evil just came and went, I decided to say fuck it and ignore it completely and do something else. Condemned Criminal Origins. Now this was a horror game I have fond memories of. I had my friend come over, as I was apt to do back then, and we blasted through the whole game in one night. Launched in 2005 for the 360 and a year later for PC by Monolith Games, Condemned downright creeped me the hell out when I was younger.
Jesus H. Nearly shot the bastard.
The game opens up with the main character, Ethan Thomas, a special crime unit detective of the FBI, rolling up to a crime scene where a murder has taken place by the notorious serial killer known only as the Matchmaker. Turning off the car and mulling over the scene for a moment, Ethan, oh, fuck! It's been less than a minute! We head into the crime scene to find our victim having a lovely tea party with a mannequin and a bunch of horrifying, faceless children mannequins just chilling about like it ain't no thing, with eyeballs scrawled all over the walls. Here we'll start scouring the crime scene looking for clues as to what happened to the victim and to affirm our suspicions that it was in fact the Matchmaker who murdered her. And for an opening sequence to a horror game, Condemned absolutely nails it. The lighting is great, the mood is appropriately set as you feel incredibly uneasy looking through the crime scene for clues, including close-up photos of the corpse of the victim. And while the game is thoroughly creeping you out, it's also introducing you to one of its best features, the detective elements. Throughout the game, you'll be snapping photos for evidence, taking samples of blood for DNA, and using a forensic light to find traces of bodily fluids, no, not that kind, that can't be seen by the naked eye. And while the forensic elements are no more than interactive story bits, there's something immensely satisfying about putting together a mystery one piece at a time and playing out the role of detective. It isn't long after we've gathered our clues before we discover we aren't alone in the building. The suspect is possibly in the building, and the hunt is on. Let's find this guy.
Okay, now he's playing with us. Change of plans.
Wait, what? We're not gonna go after him? You're gonna send me by myself to get the lights on? Well, what about the other beat cop? He's not coming with me?
All clear, Agent.
Thanks, man. All right. We're on our own then. Anybody who's out there, come out with your hands up. This is the police. Okay. Oh God, what have I done? I didn't even try to take him alive. I mean, he only had a plank, and I shot him. I shot him dead. Dear God, someone call a doctor.
Oh yes, the city's full of them now, Thomas. Addicts, vagrants, psychotic individuals gone terribly bad. They come in all kinds, but mostly violent. Be careful.
Oh, well now you tell me.
Murder is the best part of being a cop. It's more fun than abiding the law. Murder, lawful, but still murder. I have a bad song, it's okay to
Being a cop is easy. Now, where's that damn light switch? Aha, there you are. Hey, that's my gun. Now how am I supposed to be a cop? Ah, there we go. Law and order restored. All right, fast forward a bit, and after murdering the angriest hobos I've ever come across, we are caught by the killer himself, who pins us up against the wall and starts babbling nonsense.
How does it feel to be on this end of the gun?
Shortly after, our cop buddies bust through the door to save me. Quick, shoot him! No, what are you waiting for? He's pointing the gun at you! Yeah, it's fine. No, not like you had ample time to save me anyway. I'm sure I survived the fall, and when the cops get here and rescue me, we can get right back to figuring out who this mysterious killer is. It'll all work itself out.
Hello, Ethan.
Oh, hey there. You wouldn't have, seen my friends, the police, would you have?
My name is Malcolm Van Horn. I was a great friend of your father's.
Okay. I need to find the cops. There's a killer on the loose, and he has my gun.
The detectives. They're dead. Shot with your weapon. And you will be blamed for their deaths.
I mean, that's a bit presumptuous, don't you think? Look, it's easy. We'll just tell him. Look, the killer is right there, creepily watching us from across the street in another apartment. Oh my god, what a coincidence!
Ethan, you must trust me. I am here to help. Now go.
Why are you... Wait, what? We're just gonna take this guy's word and go out the window and run from the cops? Why? We have evidence! This alright. Yeah, it's at this point in the game where the plot starts to get a little unbelievable. Condemned opened masterfully. A mysterious serial killer, hints that something more was happening beyond what we knew because of the killer's ramblings, a hunt for the man who did it all. But now we awake in some living room of some man, after having some demon nightmares, who claims to have saved us because the cops are now after me as the suspect, since the other two cops were shot with my gun. And while I see the story they were going for, a once trusted cop now working on his own to clear his name and bring the real criminal to justice, that story is immediately thrown into chaos if you take a single minute to just think about it. Before the killer got my gun, we had already called for backup because the killer was in the same building, so the department knew we weren't alone. We told the other two cops that the killer took my gun as well, so they also knew he had it. I was tossed out of a window multiple stories up. Are we to believe I didn't leave a trace of my own blood? And while my body is missing, there's clear evidence of a struggle, and we were just scouring the place for clues, so we know they have the technology to deduce what happened. And to top it off, Ethan trusts this stranger who claims to be looking out for him and takes his advice while avoiding the cops instead of trying to set the record straight. Then again, we are the same man who went through a building and murdered about 10 angry, drugged-up hobos the night before, so... But this problem persists throughout the entire game. The mystery is constantly presented fantastically, with twists and turns that have you on your toes, clues to have you deducing and keep the wheels turning as to who the killer is and what's going on. Hell, sometimes I wondered if I was the killer and some sort of split personality thing was going on. And it would have been a hell of a twist if it were true. But once you start to get the answers to some of those mysteries and get the why, you're left underwhelmed and sometimes, frankly, confused. The longer the story goes, the more WTF it becomes, with paranormal aspects being thrown in more and more as time goes on, like flying furniture and ghastly visions. It all becomes a big mess very quickly. But hey, fuck it! Time to explore every abandoned train station, sewer system, and department store on our own with naught but a pipe and our own wits to bring down this serial killer. Mannequins. And by the end, you'll be questioning who is the true serial killer with the amount of murdering you end up doing yourself. I don't know if I'm more surprised by how okay Ethan is with slaughtering drug-fueled hobos by the dozens, or that the city has this many drug-fueled violent hobos to begin with.
Is there anyone out there who still isn't clear about what doing drugs does? Okay, last time. This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs.
While the story might be a weird, garbled mess, the rest of the game luckily holds together. The game is constantly haunting and eerie. Every locale is dimly lit, abandoned, and the sounds of distant enemies ensure you feel like you're never alone. You always feel like you're being watched and hunted, and there's no better level to show that than the department store level, filled to the brim with identical mannequins all eerily staring off. I honest to God felt like at any moment they would all slowly turn their heads and watch me as I walked. And the game intelligently disguises some of the enemies as the mannequins throughout the level, catching me off guard. Well, sometimes catching me off guard. It had me so creeped out that I walked around and beat the hell out of every mannequin I could just to ensure that I was safe. And the real meat of the game, the part I vividly remember and what people talk about even today, is the brutal, crunchy melee combat. Those baddies you hear off in the distance, the ones stalking you through the entire level, will eventually jump and attack you, and combat will ensue. This was the first game that I played and enjoyed first-person melee combat with. Each swing hits with a visceral crunch and the enemy stumbling backwards. When enemies hit you, you also stumble a bit, making it that more real. You can block attacks and counterattack, and enemies can block your attacks, and maybe by today's standards it isn't particularly deep, but it's still incredibly satisfying every time you hit an enemy and they fall to the ground awaiting one of the finishers at your disposal. It's visceral and dangerous and heightens the value of other weapons like guns when you do occasionally come across them. Each gun has limited ammo that you must cherish, as you will rarely get to see a gun more than once or twice a level, and each bullet is devastating to the enemies, bringing some enemies down with one shot where they would otherwise take 4 or 5 melee hits before going down. It's a great way to highlight the power of a particular weapon type. Condemned's story may be a hot mess that has plot hole after plot hole, logic that doesn't quite make sense, and an ending that leaves you asking, really? But the gameplay and atmosphere really carry the game past its weak elements and make this 11-year-old game still really fun to play today. And yes, everybody looks like they're wearing shoulder pads in this game. I'm genuinely surprised by how well Condemned Criminal Origins has aged over the past decade or so. All too often I'll have fond memories of a game only to go back and play and be severely disappointed by how poorly it's aged over the years. And while Condemned is by no means a masterpiece by today's standards, especially with its story and plot holes that make no sense, which are later addressed in a sequel that is a crazy mess in itself that I'd love to revisit one day, the gameplay itself is still incredibly satisfying, the atmosphere is creepy as hell, and there are plenty of jump scares to keep you on the edge of your seat. And the game itself is only about 4 hours long, perfect for a lone night on a Halloween Eve to spook the crap out of yourself in pitch black. I highly recommend you check it out, and it's only $15 on Steam, well worth a shot. And that's why I, the Honorable Judge Mathas, judge this game as innocent. The story may be a giant clusterfuck, but the gameplay itself is still really satisfying, and the spooks kept my nerves frayed throughout the entire experience. And it's cheap! And it's not even that bad looking for a game that's 10 years old. I suggest you check it out. So with Halloween right around the corner, I have to ask, what's your favorite horror game that you've ever played? There's no right or wrong answer except, when you give me a wrong answer like the remake of Alone in the Dark. But I'm curious, what is the horror game that scared the crap out of you as a kid or as an adult? Now, Condemned is a great horror game, but it's not my favorite horror game. I think my favorite horror game has to be Silent Hill 2. And I know that's an answer a lot of people will probably give, but it really is a masterpiece of its genre and a game that you should still play today, given a chance. But I'm excited to read your answers in the comments section below and see what your favorite horror games are. Have a great Halloween, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you all so much for watching this spooky episode of Judge Mathas. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to watch another episode of Judge Mathas, you can go watch the last one I did on Warcraft Adventures, A Lord of the Clans. That game was really weird. Or if you want more spooky Halloween specials, you can go check out my friend Dean Cuddy over at youtube.com/DeanCuddy. He just did a video on Clock Tower. Or you can go check out Pro Jared, who just did a video on Alone in the Dark, which is why Alone in the Dark was on my mind there at the end. Thanks, Jared. Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.